Alright guys, so under the topic of work and energy, so meron tayong discussion dito for the power and efficiency. So when we say power, the term power provides a useful basis for choosing the type of motor or machine which is required to do a certain amount of work in a given time. So just like here, for the example, meron daw dalawang pump. Yung pump na yon, oo, ma-empty nila yung reservoir for a given time. Pero meron ditong mas mabilis na ma-empty or mako-complete yung job. Which is ito nga yung merong larger power. So power guys is denoted by the symbol P and yung equation natin is ito. Okay? From which yung DU, so this is the engine or machine amount of work, yung DU. And yung DT natin, so that is the change in time. So when you express the work DU in terms of FDR, so we will have an equation of P is equals to force times the velocity. Or just take note of this formula. Okay, so force times velocity lang yan. So hence, the power is a scalar where in this formulation, yung V natin represents the velocity of the particle which is acted by the force F. So the basic units of power which is used in SI and FPS system are the following. So we have the watts, ayan, and yung watts natin, kapag in-expand mo siya, that is just equals lang sa joules per second. And yung joules, alam naman natin na equals lang siya Newton meter, which satisfy itong formula na to because, again, yung F natin is Newton and yung velocity is in meter per second. Okay, so ito yung one of the most common unit, especially in SI, and one conversion of the unit of power also is in terms of horsepower. Okay, so in English or FPS system, the conversion of 1 HP or 1 horsepower is equivalent to 550 feet-pound per second. Okay, so don't forget this unit or pound-feet. Anyway, same lang naman yon. And in SI, so I know, familiar naman kayo dito sa conversion na to. So that is equivalent lang sa 746 watts, yung isang horsepower. Okay, so another thing about the topic of power, so yung word na efficiency. So the mechanical efficiency of a machine is defined as the ratio. So this is just the ratio of the output, okay, output of the machine over to the input power of the machine. Okay? So it's either power yan or energy. Basta kapag sinabing efficiency, output over input. Okay? And if energy naman yung pinag-uusapan, if energy supplied to the machine occurs during the same interval at which it is drawn, then the efficiency may also be expressed in terms of the ratio of output over input. Alright? So, since machine consists of a series of moving parts, ayun, so, dyan papasok mga gear, etc. So, meron daw frictional force existing and this frictional force is nagre-reduce para do sa nagre-reduce ng efficiency ng isang machine. So, that's why nilalangisan natin or nilalagyan natin ng lubricant yung mga gear, especially yung gear ng mga ganyan, para at least nababawasan yung frictional force or frictional resistance. Okay, so kumbaga parang malaya silang gumagalaw. So because of this frictional force, ayun nga, basahin natin, will always be developed within the machine and as a result, ayun, extra energy or power is needed to overcome these forces. So consequently, power output will be less than power input and so that the efficiency of machine is less than 1. Okay? So, ang most desirable talaga is ayun nga, 100% efficiency. But since ito nga, nag-i-exist nga yung mga frictional forces na yan, so that's why usually, that is always less than 1. Pero as long as you're in the 90% siguro, we can say that it is still efficient. So, ayan. So for the procedure of analysis for the power and efficiency, so the first step to do is to determine the external forces. So paano ginagawa yon? So gagawa ka muna ulit ng free body diagram. Acting on a body which causes the motion, this force is usually developed by a machine or engine placed within or external to the body. And then if the body is accelerating, so please take note of this, it may be necessary to draw its free body diagram and apply the equation of motion, from which F is equals to mass times acceleration. So, pwede rin natin siyang, itong power, pwede rin natin isingit dito yung yung topic na kinetics, yung impulse and momentum, law of force, mass, and acceleration. So, do sa first problem, ipapakita ko yung approach using the work and energy method, tapos yung application lang niya. No? Kasi sabi ko nga, yung tatlong ito naman, parang may similarity sa bawat isa. To determine F, once F and the velocity V of the particle where F is applied have been found, and then apply mo lang yung equation for the formula of power. So the power is determined by multiplying the force magnitude with the component of velocity acting in the direction of F. So dapat in the direction of F. So it's either yung force ang kunin mo yung component niya with respect to sa direction of velocity, or yung velocity ang hanapan mo ng component para going the same direction as with the force. In some problems for the power may be found by calculating the work done by F per unit of time. So naka per time yung kanyang unit. Alright? So guys, para mas maunawa ng ating topic na ito, so let's try this on an example. So for our example number 4, again, this is under the category of power and efficiency. So basahin muna natin yung problem. So the man pushes on the 50 kilogram crate with a force of F, which is equals to 150 Newton, and it is acting on the slope given 3:4:5. Determine the power supplied by the man when t is equals to 4 seconds. The coefficient of kinetic friction between the floor and the crate is 0.2. Initially, the crate is at rest. Alright, so guys, ito yung scenario. So meron daw man na nagtutulak exerting a force of 150 Newton. So ginawa niya yon in the span of 4 seconds. Okay? And take note that yung floor natin, the contact between the crate and the floor, so meron siyang coefficient of friction which is equals to 0.2. So from that, we will have an idea na meron siyang existing friction. Okay? So una, ilagay muna natin yung force niya. Yung weight, given naman kasi yung mass ng crate natin. So to compute for the weight, that is equals lang sa 50 times 9.81. So the reason behind that is because kailangan natin munang kunin yung frictional force. Okay? So with that, let's solve first for the value of n. So to solve for n, that is simply equals lang by, or we can solve that by taking summation of forces y equals to 0, assuming upward direction as positive. So we will have n is equal, so pareho naman pababa na yan, yung y component is pababa, 150 times 3 over 5, and then plus 50 times 9.81. So we will have a normal force of, so pindutin lang natin, so 150 times 3 divided by 5 plus 50 times 9.81. So that is 580.5. So 580.5 Newton. Alright, so since the man is pushing the crate to the right, so yung motion natin is pa ganito. Ano? But then again, it is given that yung initial velocity mo, so sabi, initially, the crate is at rest. Therefore, this is 0 meter per second. And then in the span of 4 seconds, so let's just say na hanggang dito narating nung crate. Ayan. So the time interval to do that is 4 seconds. Alright? Kaso nga lang, wala tayo dito ng final velocity. So we need to solve that first. So di ba kapag work and energy method or summation ng work is equals to 1/2 mv squared. So meron tayong pinag-uusapan dito na displacement S or yung trainable na distance yung crate natin with respect to sa ground. Okay, so ano pa ba? So yung frictional force, again, kung ang motion niya is going to the right, therefore, yung F sub F natin is going to the left. So that is 0.2 of N lang. Okay? So, ayan lang yun. Yung mga forces naman dito, pagdating dito, yung pa rin yan. Okay? So, ito yung F natin. Ito yung weight. Hindi ko na lang isusulat ha. Ito yung N and ito yung frictional force. Wala namang kasi sinabing bumitaw siya. Alright, so I think kompleto na. So, kunin muna pala natin yung value ng F sub F. So, 0.2 of 580.5. So, that is equals to what? 0. Times 0.2. So, that is 116.1. 116.1 Newton. Okay, so I think nakuha na natin lahat ng mga kailangan kunin. So now, we will apply yung summation ng work. So again, summation ng work, so that is equals lang sa positive work minus negative work. Positive minus negative is equals to 1/2 of the mass times the final velocity squared minus initial velocity squared. Ayan. Kaso nga lang, as you can see, wala kasi tayong final at saka yung S. Okay? So, paano ba natin computein yan? So, tama. Babalik ulit tayo sa part na kinematics. So, meron ulit tayong tatlong formula. So, gagamitin natin yon. So, ano-ano nga ulit yon? I hope tanda pa. So, the first equation, dito na lang sa taas, So, final is equals to initial. So, dalawang solution yung papakita ko. Mamaya, pakita ko rin yung gamit yung law of force, mass, and acceleration. So, plus 80. And then, S equals to VOT plus 1/2 of 80 squared. And then, final velocity squared is equals to initial squared plus 2AS. Okay? Alright, so alin sa tingin nyo ang gagamitin natin dito? So, I think we should use the first equation muna, From which, dun lang sa gilid. So, yung final natin, so that is unknown, is equals to the initial of 0 plus yung acceleration na rate and then multiply by the time, which is 4 seconds. So, with that, we will have an equation of the final velocity equals to 4 times acceleration. So let this be our equation number 1. Yes, with respect sa time. And then, so ito sigurong second equation, So, from which yung S natin, so initial, so 0 na naman yan, plus 1/2 of the acceleration, and then multiply by t squared, or that is 4 squared. So, 16 over 2, tama ba? 16 over 2, so 8a. So, yung S mo is just equivalent lang sa 8 times the acceleration. Tama? 16, 8t squared. Alright. So, let this be our equation number 2. So, with that, pwede nating substitute tong 1 and 2 dito sa summation ng work natin. Okay? Or sa work and energy method. Positive work. Okay? So, again, balik tayo dito sa figure na to. So, yung positive work, ito yung mga forces na natulong para gumalaw yung ating crate papunta sa kanan. So, yung X component ni F So, kukunin natin yan. So, yan yung positive work. So, 150. Sorry, palitan ko lang ng green. So, 150. So, para makuha yung X component. So, 4 over 5. And then, multiply by the distance S from which yung S nga is in terms of 8A. So, Sige, palitan na natin, ano? Dahil yung aking S nga ikamukha ng 5. Magkapalit. And then what else? Is there any forces that cause positive work? Wala na, ano? And then next, yung ano naman, negative. So that is yung frictional force. So 0.2 of 116.1. And then yung distance S, which is also equals nga sa 8A. And then equals, so 1/2 of the mass of the crate, which is 50. And then yung final velocity natin in terms of acceleration. So 4A, ano? So quantify na lang natin. 4A squared. Okay? So ayan, I think pwede na natin tong pindutin sa ALQ. Ano, strip solve na lang natin. So what will be the value of A? Okay, so ito yung ating error or mistake. So, ito, hindi ko alam kung bakit i-multiply ko ulit ng 0.2. Pero frictional force na kasi ito eh. So, ito, alisin natin yung 0.2. Kasi na-multiply ko na siya eh. Kaya pala mali yung sagot na nakuha ko nung una. So, ulit. 8x minus 116.1 times 8 is equals to 1/2 of 50 times 4. 0. Okay? So, dalawa yung answer niya. So, maglagay ka na lang ng any positive value ulit. Okay. So, 0.078. 0.078 meter per second squared. Okay, so next, ano bang ano natin? So again, we all know that yung power mo, so that is just equals to force times the velocity. And yung velocity to is yung final velocity natin, which is yung makukuha natin using equation 1. Ano? So final velocity, so multiply mo lang yun ng 4 times 0.078. So that will be equals lang sa 0.312. 0.312 meter per second. And then guys, again, gaya nga nasabi ko kanina doon sa step-by-step procedure, since yung velocity natin is horizontally level with the x-axis, so yung ating force, yung exerted by the man na 150. So we need to get the x component of this. Ano? Ayan. So yung f sub x natin, or that is 150 times 4 over 5, and then multiply by the velocity of 0.312 meter per second. So the answer will be in joules per second or watts. Now, so times 150 times 4 divided by 5. Okay, so the answer is 37.44. 37.44 watts. Ano ba ang ano ng watts? W lang yan eh, di ba? Ayan. So if you are required to convert this to horsepower or any unit, so divide mo lang siya ng ano, 746. Ano? Okay, so again, I'll give you time to copy this problem. So, ay, sorry. Yung isang approach pa pala. Sige. I-duplicate ko lang ito. Ano nga ba ito? I-copy ng... Ayun. So, we'll check if pareho lang ilalabas na sagot. 37.44 watts. The answer is 37.44 watts. Okay, so guys, pwede kasi ang mangyari, haluan natin siya ng concept nga nung previous chapter. So, ano natin nun? Sige, lagay lang ulit natin yung mga forces. So, ito, meron nga siyang weight na 50 times 9.81. And then may normal force. And then merong frictional force. I-ano ko na lang ha. I-copy ko na lang yung mga given kanina. So, 580.5. 580.5. And then 116.1. 116.1. Okay? So, eto nga yung frictional force natin. And then yung motion mo, since papunta siya dito, ayan, unknown pa rin naman yan. So, ang isisingit natin dito is yung reverse effective force. Okay? Or yung REF natin. Which is equals lang yan sa mass times yung acceleration. Ano? So, when you take summation of forces x, assuming going to the x direction, as positive, assuming to the right is positive. So, it equals to 0. Pero on books kasi, ito, ini-equals na nila sa REF or yung mass times the acceleration. Okay? Pero, ganun rin yung kahit 0 kapag siningit mo yung kasi parang dito rin naman siya pupunta sa right side ng equation. So, that is 150 times 4 over 5. And then minus 116.1. Diba sabi ko nga, kunwari ito. Kunwari ito, 0. So, minus ano lang din naman yan eh. REF or yung mass times acceleration. Eh, lilipat mo lang din naman sa kabila. So, positive din. So, 50 times the acceleration. Okay? So, ayan. May acceleration na. And I think mas mabilis or mas madali yata itong anong ito. Solution natin na to. But ito ay na iba ang kulay ng calcu. Ayan, no? Kumawa. Kumawaan di kulay sa puti. Ihiwalay ang puti sa decolor. 150 times 4 divided by 5 minus 116.1 and then divided by 50. Ayun, ganun din 0.078 meter per second squared. And then, ayun, so from this, tsaka mo siya applyan ng kinematics. Yung formula nga, di ba? Final is equals to initial plus acceleration. Since given naman yung time, so 0 naman yung initial. So 0.078 and then times 4. So ano na rin? Ganun na din, di ba? Bumalik ka lang ulit sa 0.312 meter per second. And then yung procedure niya, ito na lang din. Okay, so ipumultiply mo lang naman to, di ba? So P is equals to F sub X times the velocity, yung final velocity. So yun rin yun. Ano? So ito kahit siguro hindi ko na i-flash kasi think kaya nyo naman yan. So ito na lang. Sige guys, kopya muna and ayusin ko lang yung calculator. At now, iba ang kulay. Calcu. Paano lalabas yung calcu? Ito. Ayan. Okay, so let's proceed with the next problem.